"You think the world owes you something," her mother said, throwing a trash bag full of clothes at her feet. It was her 17th birthday. She thought maybe there would be a small cake, or even just a smile. Instead, she was being kicked out of her house. Her father stood there, arms crossed, saying nothing. He didn't even look at her. She asked why. What had she done? But their minds were made up. Her mother told her she was ungrateful, too soft, too different. None of it made sense. She didn't drink, didn't party, had good grades, and followed the rules. She even helped with chores and watched her younger siblings when needed. But still, she wasn't what they wanted. With shaking hands, she picked up the trash bag and her old backpack. Inside it were some clothes, a phone with no service, and $42 she had saved from babysitting. That was all she had. She looked at her father one last time, hoping for something. A blink, a word, anything. He stayed silent. She stepped outside into the cold evening air. It was quiet, too quiet. She didn't know where to go. Her friends were still kids living with their parents. She didn't want to beg them or explain what had happened. She kept walking, hoping to find a place to stay for the night. Her heart felt heavy. She kept telling herself not to cry. Not here, not now. If she cried, it would feel too real. Her mother's last words echoed in her head. "You'll come back begging," she had said with a smirk. "You'll see." But she swore to herself she wouldn't. She didn't know how, but she would find a way. She would survive. Not just survive, she would succeed. She would prove them wrong. As she walked away from the only home she had ever known, she didn't look back, not once. She walked for hours until her feet hurt. With the little money she had, she found a cheap motel. It wasn't clean, but it had a bed and a door that locked. She paid for 2 nights. That was all she could afford. The room smelled old, the blanket was thin, and the water in the shower barely got warm. Still, it was better than the streets. The next morning, she looked for jobs. She went from place to place, asking if anyone needed help. She walked into fast food restaurants, small shops, gas stations, anywhere that might say yes. She told them she was 18 so they wouldn't turn her away. No one asked for ID. Most just said no or didn't call back. She kept trying. At night, she sat in her motel room, tired and hungry. She had no food and didn't want to spend the last of her money. On her second night, she waited near the back of a fast food place. When no one was watching, she took a half-full box of fries someone had thrown away. It was cold, but it was food. She ate quickly, heart pounding, afraid someone might see. The motel money was gone now. She had to leave. With nowhere to go, she slept near a bus stop. The next morning, she went into a gas station and cleaned herself up in the bathroom. She washed her face, brushed her teeth with her finger, and fixed her hair the best she could. It wasn't much, but she needed to look okay if she wanted to find work. She started writing in a small notebook she carried. She wrote down what happened each day, how much money she had, and where she had looked for jobs. One night, she wrote a line she couldn't stop thinking about. "This isn't rock bottom. This is just the pit before the drop." It felt like her life had just begun falling. She didn't know how deep it would go or how long it would last. But writing helped her stay calm. It helped her think. She kept walking, kept searching, and kept writing. Some days were harder than others. Sometimes she found a kind person who gave her food or let her rest for a bit. Most days, though, she was alone. But even then, she didn't give up. Something inside her said she had to keep going. She didn't want to prove her mother right. She would find a way forward, even if it was slow. After many nights on the street, she remembered an old friend from school. They weren't very close, but she decided to reach out anyway. She sent a message and waited, hoping for a reply. The friend finally answered and said she could stay on the couch for a little while. It wasn't perfect, but it was warm, safe, and better than being outside. She knew it couldn't last forever, so she worked hard to find jobs. Without papers or an address, she had to take whatever she could get. She found work washing dishes in a small kitchen during the day. The pay was low, but it was something. Then she got another job at night, waiting tables at a diner. It was hard on her feet and back, but she never complained. She worked every day, from early morning until late at night. At home, she stayed quiet and tried not to get in the way. She slept on the couch, folded her blanket each morning, and made sure to be helpful. Every dollar she earned, she saved carefully. She kept her money hidden in her backpack, hoping no one would find it. As time went on, she began to change. She learned how to act older. She spoke with more confidence, stood straighter, and kept her emotions inside. She started to dress in a way that made her look more mature. She wanted people to take her seriously. She couldn't afford to look like a scared teenager. But just when things seemed to be getting better, something bad happened. One day, she came home and found her backpack open. Her money was gone, everything she had saved. She asked her friend about it, but the girl just shrugged and said she didn't know anything. Deep down, she knew the truth. She had trusted someone, and that trust was broken. She felt like screaming, but she didn't. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. Instead, she sat quietly, breathing slowly, trying to stay calm. She had learned something important. Not everyone who offers help can be trusted. From that day on, she became more careful, more guarded. Even though it hurt, she didn't let it stop her. She started over, working just as hard as before. She made a new plan to save her money in small places instead of one spot. She promised herself she wouldn't let one mistake ruin everything. She was tired, but she was learning. The world was rough, but she was getting tougher. She wanted more than just surviving. She wanted to build a future. She heard about a local community college that accepted students with special circumstances. She didn't have parents to sign her forms, so she changed some papers to make it look like she had a guardian. It was risky, but she had no other choice. After a lot of studying, she passed her GED with top scores. She had always been a good student, and now it showed. Her scores were high enough to get her some financial aid. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough to cover books and a few classes. She was careful with her money, bought used supplies, and packed cheap lunches. One of her teachers noticed how focused she was. He asked her to stay after class one day. At first, she thought she was in trouble. Instead, he praised her work and said she had real talent. He offered her a small part-time job helping in the classroom, grading papers, organizing lessons, and helping students who were falling behind. She took the offer and gave it everything she had. She stayed late, asked questions, and helped students understand hard subjects. Word started to spread, and soon parents from wealthy neighborhoods began asking if she could tutor their kids. These kids had everything: nice homes, new clothes, cars, but many of them struggled in school. She sat with them in big houses with soft chairs and full fridges. She listened to them complain about things she never had. One boy whined about his phone being too old. Another girl cried because her mum wouldn't buy her a second designer bag. It felt unreal. They had money, family, safety, yet they acted like it wasn't enough. She nodded and stayed polite, but inside something was boiling. She never said anything out loud, but it made her think. She had slept on sidewalks. She had eaten from trash. They had beds with blankets and still called their lives hard. It didn't make her bitter. It made her work harder. She wanted to be free. She wanted her own place, her own peace. Each tutoring job gave her more money, and each class she passed brought her closer to that goal. She kept her head down and focused. The world wasn't fair. She knew that now more than ever. But she wasn't going to let it stop her. She had a sharp mind and a growing fire inside. One day, while scrolling through social media, she saw a post from a cousin she hadn't heard from in years. The words shocked her. It said something about how sad it was that she had run away and gotten into drugs. She read it twice, thinking maybe she misunderstood. But it was clear. Her parents had told the family she ran off to live a wild life, lost to addiction. Her hands shook as she read comments from people she once loved. They believed the story. Some even said they had seen it coming. Not one of them had reached out to check on her or ask if she was okay. They just took the lies and ran with them. Her heart sank. She had worked so hard to stay strong. She hadn't touched drugs, hadn't broken any laws, hadn't even skipped a class. But now her name was being dragged through the mud. Her parents hadn't just kicked her out, they had ruined her image too. It got worse. One evening, while picking up groceries after a long tutoring session, she saw her parents. They were standing in line at the same store. Her mum's eyes met hers and instantly turned cold. Her father looked away like she didn't exist. She didn't say a word, but the look in her mother's eyes said it all. Disgust, hate, maybe even fear, like she was a stain on their perfect life. Her mother gave a small glare, then turned her back. No one said hello. No one asked how she was. She walked past them, holding her head high. Her legs felt weak, but she didn't let it show. That night, back in her tiny rented room, she sat in silence for a long time. Then she whispered to herself, "You'll choke on my success one day." The words weren't loud, but they were strong. They came from a deep place inside her. She was tired of being hurt, tired of being lied about. She didn't want revenge in the usual way. She wanted success to speak for her. She would rise so high that their lies couldn't touch her. She didn't need to scream. She didn't need to fight. All she had to do was keep going. They had tried to break her name, but they hadn't broken her. Her truth was still hers to protect, and her future was still wide open. She was done feeling small. After helping rich kids pass their classes, she realized she could do it on her own. She made a simple website and started offering tutoring online. She focused on kids with ADHD and those who struggled with test prep. She knew how to explain things in a way that made sense. And soon students were doing better, and parents were noticing. At first she had just a few clients, but those clients told others. More students came. Within a few months, her schedule was full. She started making real money. It wasn't just enough to survive. It was more than she ever thought possible. In a short time, she was earning 5 figures. Every dollar felt like proof that she was building something powerful. With her new income, she made changes. She bought nicer clothes, learned how to present herself with confidence, and started looking the part. She read books and watched videos about coding and investing. She wanted to grow her business and protect her future. She spent evenings learning about stocks, websites, and money. She didn't waste anything, not time, not energy. One day, on a quiet afternoon, she decided to share a short video on TikTok. In the video, she told her story in just a few seconds. Kicked out at 17, slept in motels, now making $10,000 a month helping kids who felt left behind. She didn't expect much from it, but when she checked her phone later, the video had exploded. Thousands of people watched it, shared it, and left kind comments. Many said her story gave them hope. Some wanted to hire her. Some wanted to be her. She smiled, really smiled, for the first time in a long while. The world had once tried to make her feel like nothing, but now people were clapping for her, cheering her on. She didn't forget the hard nights or the cold meals, but she didn't live in them anymore. She was building a name, a business, and a life she could be proud of, and this was only the beginning. 4 years had passed. Her life was different now. She had her own place, her business was growing, and people knew her story. She no longer worried about food or where she would sleep. She had worked hard, and it showed. One morning, she checked her email like always, but this time there was a message from her father. It said, "Hey honey, Mum's been sick. Can we talk?" She stared at the words for a long time. Her heart didn't race. There were no tears. She just felt cold. They hadn't reached out when she was living on the street, or when she was begging for a chance. But now, after her story went viral, they suddenly wanted to talk. She didn't reply right away. She thought about it for days. She wasn't sure if it was a trap, a lie, or something else. But part of her wanted to see them face to face, not for comfort, but for truth. So she said yes. She agreed to meet them in a public place, a coffee shop near her old neighborhood. Before she left, she packed a small voice recorder in her purse. She didn't trust them, and she wanted proof of whatever they had to say. She had learned that people often change their words later, and she wasn't going to take that risk. When she walked into the coffee shop, they were already sitting at a table. Her mum looked older, but her eyes still held the same coldness. Her dad stood up and smiled like nothing had ever happened. "Hey, sweetheart," he said. She didn't hug him. They started talking. At first, it was small things, how they had missed her, how things hadn't been the same without her. Her mum wiped her eyes and said, "I've been so sick. We just want our daughter back," but it didn't feel real. The words sounded practiced, like lines from a script. Then came the truth. Her dad said, "We're behind on the house. Medical bills are hard. We were hoping maybe you could help us out just a little." There it was. The reason for the email, the fake kindness, the sudden care. They didn't want her. They wanted money. She sat quietly, letting them speak. All the while, the recorder in her purse captured every word. She didn't say much, just nodded and smiled. Inside, she felt no pain, just power. She had waited 4 years for this moment, and it had finally come. She sat across from her parents in the coffee shop, her hands wrapped around a warm cup. They smiled like everything was fine. Her mother said she looked so grown up, and that they had missed her every day. Her father nodded and added that they had always hoped she'd come back. Their voices were soft, their words full of sugar, but she didn't believe any of it. She nodded politely, and smiled just enough to keep the moment going. Inside, she felt nothing for them. She wasn't angry or nervous. She was ready. Her mom leaned forward and spoke in a soft voice. "You've done well for yourself," she said. "We're proud of you." She paused, then added, "We're going through something hard right now. The house, well, we might lose it. Your dad lost some work hours, and I've been sick. We could really use a little help." The word help hung in the air like smoke. Her mother called it a loan, promised they would pay her back when things got better. She kept her voice sweet, but her eyes were sharp. It was clear this wasn't love. It was begging dressed up in fake concern. She listened quietly. She didn't argue. She didn't ask questions. She just let them talk, let them lie, and let them think she was falling for it. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a small recorder. Her parents stopped talking. She clicked play. A voice came out, cold, sharp, clear. It was her mother's voice, recorded years ago. "You think the world owes you something?" the voice said. "You'll come back begging. You'll see." Her parents went pale. Her mother's hand froze mid-air, her mouth slightly open. Her father looked down at the table. She looked at them calmly. "I didn't come here to give you money," she said. "I came here to show you who I am now." They didn't speak. For the first time, they had no power over her. She stood up, took her purse and walked toward the door. Her steps were steady. Her heart was light. Outside, the air felt fresh. She had faced them, heard their lies, and reminded them of the truth. She had recorded her pain, carried it with her, and used it to protect herself. They wanted her to forget, but she remembered everything, and now so would they. She went home after the meeting with her parents and sat in silence for a while. Her thoughts were clear. She opened her laptop and started editing a video. On one side, she added the audio clip of her mother yelling and throwing her out of the house years ago. On the other side, she put the recording from the coffee shop where her parents begged her for money. She titled the video, "The Day They Kicked Me Out" versus "The Day They Begged Me Back." She didn't add much else, just the truth. She posted it on TikTok and went to bed. By morning, the video had exploded. Thousands of people had shared it. Comments poured in from strangers telling her how strong she was. Some shared their own stories. Others were simply shocked. The video was raw, honest, and powerful. It touched something deep in people. By the next day, news websites started picking it up. Headlines read, "Young woman exposes cruel parents who begged after her success and thrown out at 17. Now she's winning." People from all over the country talked about it. They admired her strength, her calm, and the way she turned pain into power. Soon, people in her old town saw the video too. Her parents' names came out. Everyone now knew what they had done. Her father worked at the local bank, but after the story went viral, the bank let him go. Customers didn't trust him anymore. No one wanted to be served by the man who threw his own daughter out. Her mum stopped showing her face in public. Neighbors stopped talking to them. The people who once believed her parents' lies now stayed away from them. The truth had finally come out, and they couldn't hide anymore. Meanwhile, her inbox was full of messages. People wanted to work with her. Companies offered her jobs. Non-profits reached out asking if she wanted to speak or lead projects. Even parents of struggling students wrote in, hoping she could tutor their children. She read each message slowly, her heart full. She hadn't made the video for fame. She made it to share her truth. But the world saw it and stood by her. For the first time, she truly felt seen, not just as a girl who survived, but as a woman who fought back. Her revenge wasn't loud or cruel. It was simple, honest, and public, and that made it perfect. She moved to a new city with hope in her heart. Life had changed a lot. She worked hard, saved every dollar, and finally bought a small but beautiful condo with her own money. It felt good to know that no one helped her. She did it all by herself. The place was quiet, full of light, and gave her peace. After settling in, she started a non-profit for homeless teens. She knew how it felt to be young, scared, and alone with nowhere to go. She didn't want others to suffer the way she had. Her non-profit gave food, clothes, and shelter to those in need. Many teens found a second chance because of her kindness and care. One day, a letter arrived in her mailbox. It was from her parents. She stared at it for a while before opening it. Inside, there were just a few simple words. "We were wrong. We're sorry. Please forgive us." She sat quietly, reading the letter again. Her heart felt heavy, but not angry. She thought of all the years she cried, all the nights she slept in fear. But she also remembered her growth, her strength, and her success. She took a deep breath. Maybe people do change. Maybe they truly regret what they did. She picked up her phone and called them. Her father answered, and for a moment, there was silence. Then he spoke softly. "We miss you. Your mum's health is not good. She asks about you every day." Hearing that made her eyes fill with tears. She went to visit them the next day. When her mother saw her, she broke down crying. Her father hugged her like he never wanted to let go. They said sorry again and again. This time, it felt real. She forgave them, not because they deserved it, but because her heart was ready. They had hurt her deeply, but she no longer wanted to carry the pain. They stayed in touch. She helped them when they needed support, and they stood by her as proud parents. Slowly, they became a family again, not perfect, but whole. She smiled one day and said, "They were right about one thing. I'd be back, but not to beg. I came back because love deserves another chance." Do you think she made the right choice by forgiving her parents after everything they did? Or should she have stayed away and never looked back? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm really curious to hear your opinion. And if you like stories about strength, second chances, and real-life drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out.